The whisper of the ship's life support system was Alara's lullaby, a constant, gentle hum that vibrated through the floor plates and settled deep in her bones. It was the sound of home, the sound of the Starlight Cradle line. She stretched, a small, sleepy yawn escaping her lips, and pushed herself up from her sleep pad. The room was bathed in the soft ambient glow of the bioluminescent moss that lined the walls. A living tapestry of emeralds and sapphires, carefully cultivated to mimic the quiet magic of a forest floor. Her window, a reinforced crystal pane, displayed the universe in all its silent grandeur. Tonight, a swirl of amethyst nebula painted itself across the void, each tendril of gas and dust, a brushstroke from an unseen artist. Alara pressed her nose against the cool surface, exhaling a puff of condensation that instantly dissipated. She knew, without looking at the chronometer, that it was still early. The ship's simulated day cycle had just begun its slow climb towards artificial dawn, but the real dawn, the kind that kissed planets, was a distant, theoretical concept for her. She had been born amongst the stars, a child of the deep void, and the wise Starlight Cradle line was the only world she had ever known. Her room was a cozy pocket of the vast vessel, filled with the simple treasures of a 7-year-old. A worn hollow projector that displayed constellations, a stack of data slates filled with stories of ancient Earth, and a collection of meticulously labeled geode fragments her father had found on a distant asteroid belt. The air, recycled and pristine, carried the faint, clean scent of ozone and the sweeter aroma of the ship's hydroponic gardens. A soft chime sounded, and a warm, synthesized voice filled the room. "Good morning, Alara. Simulated dawn cycle commencing in 5 minutes. Would you like assistance with your morning routine?" It was Lumi, the ship's primary AI, a constant, comforting presence that managed everything from navigation to Alara's breakfast. Lumi didn't have a physical form, but Alara always imagined her as a shimmering nebula, vast and knowing. "Morning, Lumi," Alara mumbled, already pulling on her soft gray tunic and pants. They were designed for comfort and practicality, with self-adjusting thermal filaments and reinforced knees. "No assistance needed. I'm going to check the garden before breakfast." "Acknowledged," Lumi replied, her voice tinged with the subtle warmth of programmed affection. "Please ensure you have adequate hydration before your activities. Your nutrient paste will be dispensed at 700 standard, Dec Beta 7 Galley." Alara grinned, her teeth flashing white in the dim light. Lumi always worried about her hydration. She floated towards the door, letting the ship's gentle artificial gravity guide her. The Starlight Cradle maintained a comfortable 0.8 g, enough to keep things feeling normal, but light enough to make every jump a little springier. Every lift a little easier. She navigated the familiar corridors with ease, her bare feet padding silently on the cool deck plating. The ship was a marvel of bioengineering and advanced propulsion, designed for generations of self-sufficiency. Its outer hull was a mosaic of gleaming solar sails and reinforced armor, but inside it was a living ecosystem. Filtered sunlight streamed through strategically placed skylights, illuminating pathways lined with shimmering, photosynthetic flora that helped scrub the air and produce oxygen. The walls pulsed with a gentle rhythmic light, guiding her path. The hydroponic gardens were Alara's favorite place on the ship. A vast dome of shimmering glass and nutrient-rich mist, it was a riot of greens and purples, a miniature jungle suspended in space. Here the air was thick and sweet with the scent of growing things. Ripe xenofruits, earth-native herbs, and exotic alien flora harvested from uninhabited worlds. Giant, iridescent leaves unfurled towards the artificial suns, their surfaces shimmering like polished metal. She found her mother, Dr. Iris Thorne, already there, her fingers gently stroking the velvety petals of a bioluminescent nightbloom. Her mother's dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her face, usually etched with the focused intensity of a xenobotanist, was softened by the quiet beauty of the garden. "Morning, Mama," Alara whispered, careful not to startle her. Iris turned, a smile lighting her eyes. "Good morning, little star. Up early again?" Alara nodded, bouncing on the balls of her feet. "The nebula outside my window was too pretty to sleep through. Is this the new Xylosian vine? It's glowing brighter today." She pointed to a delicate climbing plant whose tendrils pulsed with a soft azure light. "It is," Iris confirmed, her voice rich with an enthusiasm Alara knew well. It seems to be thriving in the simulated deep space conditions. We're hoping to extract its unique chlorophyll compound for enhanced energy storage. Imagine a starship running on purified plant energy. Ilara's eyes widened. Like eating the sun? Iris chuckled, pulling Ilara into a gentle hug. Something like that. Come, let's get some breakfast. Your father will be waiting. They walked hand in hand through the garden, the gentle mist cooling their faces. Ilara loved these quiet mornings with her mother, before the day's work began, before the ship's various scientific teams awoke fully, and the comm channels buzzed with data and discoveries. They found Ilara's father, Commander Jax Thorne, in the small circular galley on Beta 7, a nutrient paste dispenser humming softly beside him. Jax was an astrogator, a pilot, and the mission commander. His face, usually serious and thoughtful, broke into a warm smile when he saw them. My two favorite botanists, he said, pulling Ilara onto his lap. His uniform, a deep slate gray, always smelled faintly of ionized air and something uniquely ship. Any new discoveries in the green zone this morning? The xylosian vine is getting brighter, Ilara announced proudly, spooning her vanilla-flavored nutrient paste. It tasted like sweet cream, surprisingly pleasant. Excellent, Jax said, ruffling her hair. Perhaps one day you'll be cultivating entire planetary ecosystems, Ilara. What do you say to that? Ilara considered this, chewing thoughtfully. Will they have trees big enough to climb? Real trees, with dirt? Jax's smile softened. Bigger than anything you've ever seen, my little explorer. And yes, they will have dirt. Lots of it. It was a constant thread in their conversations, the promise of a planet. Ilara had seen countless planets through the ship's viewports and on her data slates, swirling gas giants, crystalline ice worlds, desert planets kissed by twin suns. But she had never felt the solid ground beneath her feet, never breathed unfiltered air, never known a sky that wasn't framed by the Starlight Cradle-wise hull. Speaking of new discoveries, Iris interjected, tapping a display on the table. Lumi has detected something unusual in the Beta 9 sector. A gravitational anomaly, highly localized, within the nebula we're currently charting. It's too small to be a black hole, too dense to be a stellar remnant. Jax's expression sharpened. Anomaly? How unusual. Highly. Its energy signature fluctuates erratically, unlike anything in our database. It's almost artificial. Lumi has designated it Whisper Point. Ilara felt a thrill of excitement. Whisper Point. What does it whisper? Jax chuckled, but his eyes were serious as he studied the data. We'll find out, sweetheart. Lumi, what's our projected trajectory to Whisper Point? Current velocity will bring us within optimal scanning range in approximately 18.7 standard hours, Commander. Lumi's voice responded from the ship's comm system. I recommend commencing long-range spectral analysis immediately. Agreed, Jax said, pushing back from the table. Iris, can you ready the xenobotanical probes? If it's artificial, it might have unique material compositions. Ilara, how about you come with me to the bridge after breakfast? We can review the astrogation charts. Ilara's eyes lit up. Really? Can I help plot the course? You can certainly help me understand the nebula's currents, Jax replied, winking. Your eyes are sharper than any sensor array sometimes. The bridge of the Starlight Cradle was a cathedral of light and data. A panoramic viewport curved around the front of the ship, offering an uninterrupted vista of the deep void. Today, the Amethyst Nebula swirled directly ahead, its luminous gases like slow-motion cosmic currents. Holographic displays shimmered with star charts, sensor readings, and trajectory projections, all expertly managed by Lumi's omnipresent intelligence. Ilara sat in her booster seat at the astrogation console, her small fingers tracing constellations on a holographic star map. Body. Jax stood beside her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder, explaining the complex dance of gravitational pulls and interstellar winds. See here, Ilara. He pointed to a cluster of yellow stars. This is the Lost Lanterns cluster. We passed it 2 weeks ago. Now, watch how Lumi plots our course through the outer fringes of the Ghost Veil Nebula. He gestured to the swirling gases ahead. We have to be careful here. The ionized particles can interfere with our comms and even our propulsion if we're not precise. Ilara watched, mesmerized, as a delicate blue line appeared on the holographic map, weaving an intricate path through the nebula. "It's like a cosmic ballet," she murmured, echoing something her mother often said. "Precisely," Jax agreed, a proud smile on his face. "And we are the dancers. Now, about Whisper Point." He zoomed in on a specific section of the nebula. A tiny pulsating red dot appeared on the map. "Our preliminary scans show that it's stable, despite its erratic energy signature. It's not a threat, but it's definitely an enigma." "What if it's a message?" Elara asked, her voice hushed. "From another civilization?" Jax paused, looking out at the vast expanse of stars. "It's certainly a possibility, little star. That's why we're here. To seek out new life, new civilizations, and to boldly go where no human has gone before." He recited the ancient adage with a quiet reverence. "But it could also be a natural phenomenon we just don't understand yet. The universe holds more mysteries than we can ever imagine." He showed her the spectral analysis, a dizzying array of graphs and charts that Elara didn't fully comprehend. But she understood the wonder in her father's voice as he explained the anomalous readings. The energy signature of Whisper Point was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was a symphony of frequencies that seemed to shift and change, almost as if it were breathing. "We'll need to send out a recon drone once we're in range," Jax explained. "Something small, stealthy, that can get close without triggering any potential responses." Elara leaned forward, her imagination already conjuring images of ancient alien artifacts, shimmering temples hidden within the nebula's embrace. "Can I watch the drone's feed?" "Of course," Jax promised. "You'll have the best seat in the house." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of activity. Elara joined her mother in the xenobotany lab, helping to calibrate the atmospheric sensors for the probes they would deploy. She learned about different types of radiation, the subtle shifts in atmospheric composition that could indicate life, and the delicate art of sampling alien flora without disturbing their ecosystems. Her mother explained how the probes were designed to gently extract genetic material, analyze it, and then release the sample back into its environment, leaving no trace. "We are observers, Elara," Aris had told her, her voice serious. "We are here to learn, not to interfere. The universe is a delicate balance, and we are but guests." In the afternoon, Elara had her designated free exploration time. She spent it in the ship's zero-G recreation chamber, a vast spherical room where artificial gravity could be completely disabled. She floated effortlessly, doing graceful somersaults and spins, chasing after the holographic fish that swam through the projected ocean environment. For a brief time, she was truly free, unbound by the ship's gentle gravity, soaring like a bird in an endless sky. Later, she found herself back at her window, watching the nebula grow closer, its amethyst tendrils now visible in sharper detail. Whisper Point, still a tiny red dot on the ship's internal displays, felt like a magnet, pulling her gaze. She thought about her parents, their unwavering dedication to their mission. They had left everything behind. A planet, a society, a life of stability, to embark on this generations-long journey into the unknown. They carried the hopes and dreams of humanity on their shoulders, the silent quest for knowledge and connection. And she, Elara, was a part of that dream, a living testament to humanity's enduring spirit of exploration. Sometimes, a wave of profound loneliness would wash over her. She was the only child on the Starlight Cradle line. All the crew were adults, dedicated scientists and engineers, kind and loving, but not playmates. She had her books, her hollow stories, and Lumi, but sometimes, she longed for the laughter of other children, the rough and tumble games of a playground. She knew about playgrounds from her data slates, green fields under blue skies, filled with children running and shouting. But then she would look out at the stars, at the endless, swirling tapestry of creation, and the loneliness would recede, replaced by a boundless sense of wonder. This was her playground. The universe was her home. And the Starlight Cradle was her safe haven, her guardian, carrying her through the cosmic night. "Almost there, Elara," Lumi's voice gently broke her reverie. "We are entering optimal drone deployment range for Whisper Point in T-30 minutes. Elara's heart fluttered. This was it. The moment of discovery. She imagined the drone, a tiny metallic bird, soaring through the nebula, its sensors probing the mystery. What would it find? A lost city? A forgotten artifact? Or simply another beautiful, inexplicable secret of the universe? She closed her eyes, picturing the vastness, the silence, the endless possibilities. The Starlight Cradle hummed around her, a constant, comforting presence. She felt the subtle shift as the ship began its final approach, positioning itself for the drone's launch. The universe was about to whisper its secrets, and Alara, in her Starlight Cradle, was ready to listen. The soft, thrumming of the Starlight Cradle deepened, a low, resonant chord that vibrated through the deck plates and into Alara's very bones. On the main view screen, the launch bay doors hissed open, revealing the inky blackness punctuated by distant, swirling nebulae. A tiny, agile craft, no bigger than her outstretched arms, detached from its magnetic cradle with a barely perceptible nudge. This was Whisper, the drone designed for delicate reconnaissance, equipped with advanced multispectral sensors, a microgravitic manipulator, and a suite of bioscanners. Its primary mission: to be her eyes and ears in the unknown. Alara leaned forward, her face bathed in the soft blue glow of the console. "Whisper, status report," she murmured, more to herself than the AI. A calm, synthesized voice responded from the speakers. "All systems nominal, Alara. Initiating descent sequence to coordinates Tau 7. On the screen, Whisper's miniature thrusters flared. A brief, silent dance of light, before it began its slow, deliberate plunge towards the gas giant's upper atmosphere. The Starlight Cradle remained in orbit, a silent sentinel, its own vast array of sensors monitoring Whisper's every micro-movement, its every data packet. The initial descent was a ballet of color and light. Whisper cut through layers of iridescent gas, each stratum a different hue, emerald, sapphire, amethyst, painted across the void like strokes from a cosmic brush. Wisps of hydrogen and helium tinged with exotic compounds swirled around its optical sensors, creating a kaleidoscope of fleeting patterns. Alara watched, captivated, her heart a drumbeat against her ribs. This wasn't just data acquisition, it was witnessing a universe breathe. "Atmospheric composition stable," Whisper reported, its voice unwavering. "Trace elements indicate complex organic compounds, pressure increasing but within parameters." The visual feed sharpened. Below the swirling veils, a more defined landscape began to emerge. It wasn't solid ground, as she might find on a terrestrial planet, but a vast, ethereal ocean of superdense gas, churning and roiling with slow, majestic currents. Within this endless ocean, peculiar formations began to take shape. Not clouds, not storms, but colossal, crystalline structures, impossibly intricate, floating like icebergs of pure light. They pulsed with an internal luminescence, casting long, shifting shadows across the gaseous depths. "Remarkable," Alara whispered. "Zoom in on that largest formation," Whisper. "Designated Crystal Spire 1. Whisper complied, its optical sensors resolving the details. The crystal spire was colossal, easily kilometers high, tapering upwards into a needle-sharp point that seemed to pierce the gaseous layers above. Its surface was not smooth but faceted, reflecting and refracting the ambient light in a dazzling display. But it wasn't a passive structure. Along its flanks, smaller, delicate tendrils of light extended, like roots reaching into the gas ocean, or perhaps antennae absorbing energy. As Whisper drew closer, Alara noticed something even stranger. Tiny motes of light, like bioluminescent plankton, drifted in the gas around the spire, seemingly drawn to its glow. Some were no bigger than her thumbnail, others the size of her fist, all moving with an organic, purposeful grace. They weren't debris, they were alive. "Bioscans initiated on local fauna," Whisper announced. "Preliminary data suggests silicate-based life forms, utilizing ambient energy fields for sustenance. Unprecedented." Alara felt a thrill course through her. Silicate life. It was a theoretical possibility, but to witness it, thriving in such an alien environment. This was why she ventured into the deep dark. To find the impossible made real. She guided Whisper with gentle commands, her fingers dancing over the holographic controls. The drone wove its way through the ethereal plankton, closer to the base of the crystal spire. The air, if one could call it that, began to hum with a subtle resonant frequency, a vibration Alara could almost feel even through the drone's sensors. It was low, ancient, like the Earth's deepest geological sigh. Then, The true anomaly came into view. It wasn't part of the crystal spire, but nestled within a vast concave depression at its base, partially obscured by the swirling gas. It was perfectly geometric, a sphere of impossible blackness, absorbing all light, yet simultaneously outlined by a faint, shimmering halo of indigo. It was too perfect, too precise, to be natural. Whisper. Approach the sphere. Maintain maximum distance until further analysis, Elara instructed, her voice hushed. Her breath caught in her throat. This was it. The mystery. As Whisper drew nearer, the indigo halo around the black sphere intensified, pulsing rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. The sphere itself remained utterly lightless, a void within a universe of light. It was perhaps 100 meters in diameter, perfectly smooth, utterly featureless. No seams, no windows, no visible entry points. It simply was gone. Energy readings are anomalous, Elara, Whisper reported, a faint edge of surprise in its synthesized voice. The sphere is a net absorber of all known electromagnetic radiation. However, it is simultaneously emitting a complex multi-frequency graviton field. Signature is artificial. Artificial. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Someone had built this. Something. Who? Who? And why? Elara's mind raced, sifting through geological data, astronomical theories, cultural parallels. This wasn't a lost city of ancient humans, nor a forgotten artifact from a known civilization. This was Yothering. Deep time, deep space, deep unknown. She felt a wave of profound awe wash over her, followed by a prickle of humility. She was just one human, a tiny speck of consciousness gazing upon something so vast in its implications. The universe wasn't just beautiful. It was intelligent, intricate, and infinitely surprising. "Can you get a material composition scan, Whisper?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper itself. "Attempting," the drone replied. A beam of focused energy, harmless and barely visible, lanced out from Whisper, striking the obsidian surface of the sphere. It was instantly absorbed, leaving no trace, no reflection. "Material composition scan inconclusive," Whisper stated. "Energy absorption is absolute. No return signal." Frustration mingled with Elara's awe. It was like trying to measure a black hole with a ruler. The sphere defied conventional analysis. But the graviton field, that was a key. "Analyze the graviton field's frequency patterns," Elara commanded. "Is there any discernible pattern? A sequence? A message?" Whisper was silent for a long moment, its internal processors working at maximum capacity. The indigo halo around the sphere pulsed faster now, as if aware of Whisper's probing. The low hum in the gas intensified, becoming a more distinct, resonant tone, like a deep, cosmic chime. "Graviton field patterns detected," Whisper finally announced. "Complex harmonic sequence. Repeating pattern identified. Analysis suggests a highly structured, non-random signature. Potentially informational." Informational? A message. Elara's heart pounded. "Can you translate?" "Insufficient data," Whisper replied. "The harmonic structure is unlike any known communication protocol. It's musical, Elara. But the notes are gravitons, not sound waves." "Musical, ... Elara closed her eyes, trying to imagine. A song woven from the fabric of space-time itself. What kind of beings would communicate like that? What kind of message would they leave? She remembered a night, long ago, when her grandmother, a brilliant xenolinguist, had told her stories of the universal symphony. A theoretical concept that all life, all matter, vibrated at unique frequencies, and that a truly advanced civilization might learn to read the universe's song. Could this be it? A sudden sharp alarm blared from Whisper's sensors. "Warning! Graviton field intensity increasing exponentially. Local space-time distortion detected." On the screen, the indigo halo around the black sphere flared, blindingly bright. The crystalline spires around it began to vibrate violently, shedding glittering shards into the gas ocean. The ethereal plankton scattered, fleeing in every direction. "Elara, I am being drawn in," Whisper reported, its synthesized voice now tinged with urgency. "Graviton field is exerting a powerful attractive force. Full thrusters, Whisper." Abort mission! Get out of there! Ilara yelled, her fingers flying across the controls, trying to override the drone's trajectory. But it was too late. The black sphere, once a passive mystery, was now an active, hungry maw. Whisper's image on the screen grew distorted, stretched, then compressed, as if viewed through a funhouse mirror made of pure gravity. The indigo halo consumed it, and with a final garbled burst of static, the feed went dark. Whisper! Whisper! Do you copy? Ilara cried, her voice echoing in the sudden silence of the bridge. Only the hum of the Starlight Cradle remained, and the frantic blinking of the lost signal indicator on her console. Her hands trembled. Lost. Just like that. The most advanced drone in the fleet, swallowed by an unknown artifact. A wave of cold dread washed over her, chilling her to the bone. Not just for Whisper, but for the profound, unsettling power of the object they had found. It wasn't just a relic. It was active, potent, and perhaps dangerous. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the blank screen where Whisper's feet had been. The mystery had deepened, yes, but it had also turned hostile. Computer, what are the Starlight Cradling's current sensor readings on Tau 7? She demanded, forcing her voice to be steady. Graviton field emanating from target coordinates remained stable at elevated intensity, the ship's AI reported calmly. Space-time distortion localized around the anomaly. No further expansion detected. No threat to the Starlight Cradle at current orbital altitude. No threat to the ship, but Whisper was gone. And whatever happened to it, the sphere now held it. Or consumed it. Ilara closed her eyes again, picturing the black sphere, its indigo halo, and the beautiful, terrifying song it sang through the fabric of space-time. What was its purpose? Was it a gateway? A weapon? A source of immense power? Or something else entirely, beyond human comprehension? Her mind drifted back to her grandmother's stories, not just of the universal symphony, but of the cosmic loom. The idea that the universe wasn't just a collection of stars and planets, but a vast interconnected tapestry of energy and consciousness, woven by unseen hands. This black sphere, absorbing light and emitting graviton music, felt like a knot in that loom, a focal point of immense, ancient power. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear despite the years. She was a child, no older than 7, sitting on her grandmother's lap, looking up at the holographic star map projected onto the ceiling of their home. Ilara, her grandmother had said, her voice soft. Remember that the greatest discoveries are not always about finding something new, but about understanding something old in a new way. And sometimes, the oldest things are the most dangerous, for they hold powers we've long forgotten. Ilara shivered. Her grandmother, Dr. Aris Thorne, had been a pioneer in xenolinguistics, always seeking to bridge the gap between species, between realities. She had disappeared on a deep space expedition when Ilara was just 15, swallowed by a nebula that had suddenly flared into an uncharted wormhole. No trace, no distress signal, just gone. Ilara had inherited her grandmother's insatiable curiosity, her longing to understand the universe's deepest secrets. And now, she felt a strange, chilling echo of that loss, not just for Whisper, but for the potential of knowledge lost, swallowed by the unknown. She opened her eyes, her gaze fixed on the blank screen. She wouldn't abandon Whisper. Not yet. Not without understanding what had happened. Computer, initiate long-range spectral analysis on the anomaly, Ilara instructed, her voice regaining its steel. Focus on graviton harmonics. Can we project a shielding field around a future probe, one that could resist that kind of attraction? Theoretical possibility, Ilara, the AI responded. Requires significant energy reallocation and precise calibration. Risk of catastrophe remains high. Understood, Ilara said, her jaw tight. Begin calculations. I need to know what we're up against, and I need to know if Whisper is still functional, even if it's trapped. She knew the odds were slim. But hope, like the Starlight Cradle itself, was designed to navigate the darkest voids. She walked over to the main view screen, which now showed the distant gas giant, a swirling jewel in the blackness. Somewhere within its ethereal depths, the black sphere pulsed, a cosmic enigma, holding Whisper captive, and perhaps a secret that could redefine everything humanity understood about the universe. The silence on the bridge was profound, broken only by the ship's steady hum and the soft tap-tap-tap-tay of Ilara's fingers on the console as she reviewed sensor logs, searching for any anomaly, any clue, any hint of what Whisper's final moments might have revealed. She pulled up the last few seconds of the drone's feed, freezing it on the image of the black sphere just before it swallowed Whisper whole. The indigo halo pulsed, a hypnotic, beautiful, terrifying light. It wasn't just light, it was an energy signature, a field, a force. What if it wasn't just pulling objects in, but changing them? What if Whisper wasn't destroyed, but transformed? The thought was wild, speculative. But in this universe, Ilara had learned that the wildest theories often held a kernel of truth. She spent hours poring over the data, cross-referencing the graviton field's unique harmonic signature with every known and theoretical energy pattern in the stellar cartography database. Nothing matched. It was truly unique. An alien song, playing on an instrument no one had ever conceived. As the ship orbited the gas giant, Ilara felt a strange connection to the black sphere, a pull of curiosity that was almost physical. It was terrifying, yes, but also utterly magnetic. It was the ultimate puzzle, and she, a puzzle solver by nature, felt an irresistible urge to unravel it. She thought about her team back on the Starlight Cradle line. Commander Rylos, the stoic pilot. Dr. John Lee, the brilliant xenobotanist. Engineer Kale, who could fix anything with a flick of his wrist. They would want to know. They would want to strategize. But, for now, this was her burden, her nascent understanding of an object that had just swallowed her probe. She needed to process it, to feel its weight before bringing it to them. The Starlight Cradling was more than just a ship, it was a sanctuary, a home. Its sophisticated systems kept her safe, nourished, and connected to the vast network of human civilization, light years away. But even within its comforting embrace, she felt the immense loneliness of discovery. To be the first, to witness something so profound, was to stand on the precipice of understanding, alone. She remembered another story from her grandmother, about ancient explorers who would journey into uncharted territories not with maps, but with faith. Faith that the unknown held not just danger, but also wonder. Faith that humanity was part of something larger, something grander. Ilara looked up at the main view screen again. The gas giant was now a distant, swirling marble, but her mind's eye could still see the black sphere, pulsing with its indigo song. She knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within her, that this was not the end of the mystery. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter, one that promised revelations beyond imagination, and perhaps, dangers she couldn't yet conceive. She had to try again. She had to understand. For Whisper, for her grandmother, for humanity, and for the sheer, unadulterated wonder of it all. The universe had whispered its secrets, and now, it demanded a response. And Ilara, in her Starlight Cradle, was ready to answer. But how? How do you approach an object that absorbs everything, even light, and sings a song of space-time distortion? How do you communicate with something that operates on a level of physics entirely new? She thought of the graviton field. It was complex, musical, informational. What if it wasn't a trap but a test? A form of extremely advanced encryption, or a gate that required a specific key to unlock? She started running simulations, feeding the graviton harmonic data into the ship's supercomputer. Computer? Generate theoretical models for energy field manipulation based on detected graviton harmonics. Can we create a counterfrequency? A resonance that would stabilize the field, or perhaps interact with it? The computer hummed, its processors whirring. Calculations initiated. Projected time to initial theoretical model. 3 hours. 7 hours. 7 hours of waiting, of hypothesizing, of staring at the blank screen and wondering what had become of Whisper. Ilara felt the exhaustion creeping in, but her mind was too alert, too buzzing with possibilities and dangers. She went to the small observation deck, a transparent dome offering a panoramic view of the galaxy. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds on black velvet. Nebulae swirled in distant, silent dances. This was the universe she sought to understand. the universe that now presented her with its most baffling, beautiful, and potentially terrifying secret. She thought about the silicate life forms, the glowing plankton. They thrived in the gas ocean around the sphere. Were they connected to it? Were they part of its ecosystem, or perhaps part of its defense? The sphere didn't seem destructive in the conventional sense. It absorbed, it pulled, it transformed. It was a vacuum of light, a fountain of gravity. As she watched the stars, a new idea sparked in her mind, a daring, almost reckless thought. What if the sphere wasn't meant to be approached at all? What if it was meant to be listened to? What if the graviton song wasn't a barrier, but an invitation, a cosmic language waiting to be deciphered? Her grandmother's words echoed again. The greatest discoveries are not always about finding something new, but about understanding something old in a new way. What if the new way was to stop trying to force entry or overcome its power, and instead, to simply hear it, to learn its language, to speak its song? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, a mixture of excitement and profound trepidation. It would mean a radical shift in approach. It would mean accepting the unknown on its own terms, rather than trying to bend it to humanity's understanding. It would mean vulnerability. But isn't that what exploration truly was? A leap of faith into the vast, whispering darkness. Elara closed her eyes, letting the image of the black sphere fill her mind. She pictured the indigo halo, the complex graviton harmonics, the silent, profound hum in the gas ocean. She imagined Whisper, perhaps not destroyed but held within that silent, powerful embrace, experiencing something no human had ever witnessed. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, a calm resolve settling over her. She would not let this mystery remain unsolved. She would not let Whisper be lost forever. She would find a way to listen, to understand. The Starlight Cradle continued its silent vigil, a tiny beacon of humanity against the cosmic canvas. Elara knew her journey was far from over. The universe had only just begun to truly whisper, and its deepest secrets awaited a listener brave enough to hear them, and perhaps to sing along. She would be that listener. The black sphere waited, a silent, singing enigma, and Elara, in her Starlight Cradle, was ready to learn its melody. The next phase of discovery would not be about force, but about harmony. And that, she realized, was a much more beautiful and dangerous path. The silent, singing enigma waited. Elara, in her Starlight Cradle, felt the shift in her own perception, a subtle reorientation from the rigid protocols of scientific inquiry to something more fluid, more intuitive. Harmony, not force. But what was seen harmony to an object that defied all known physics? She began by simply listening. Not with her ears, for the sphere emitted no sound, but with the full spectrum of her being. She closed her eyes, letting the faint, constant hum of the Stardust Weaver fade into the background. She imagined herself as a single open chord in a cosmic symphony, waiting for another instrument to join. She focused on the feeling the sphere evoked, that deep, resonant calm, the sense of profound age and boundless potential. Days bled into nights within the observation chamber, marked only by the ship's internal chronometer and the cycling of nutrient paste Elara barely tasted. She tried different approaches. First, she projected simple mathematical sequences, the universal language of pattern, through the ship's specialized low-frequency emitter, hoping for a resonant echo. The sphere remained inert, its surface absorbing all light, reflecting nothing but the void of its own mystery. She tried complex fractals, images of natural growth patterns, even ancient musical scales from Earth's diverse cultures. Nothing. Frustration, a sharp unwelcome dissonance began to prick at her. Was she misinterpreting the message? Was she too human, too limited by her own biology and history? She almost reverted to the old ways, to scanning, probing, attempting to extract data. But the memory of the sphere's gentle light, the way it had communicated without words, pulled her back. Harmony, tutto. Then, one simulated night cycle, as the ship drifted in the vast star-dusted silence, Elara stopped trying to sending. She simply, felt, doiga. She reached out not with data, but with emotion. She thought of the wonder she felt, the overwhelming sense of privilege at being the first human to encounter something so utterly alien. She thought of the loneliness of space, the longing for connection. She thought of the quiet joy of discovery, the thrill of the unknown. She poured her raw, unfiltered self into the space between her and the sphere, a silent, emotional outpouring. And for the first time since the initial light, the sphere responded. It wasn't a sound, or a flash. It was a sensation, a gentle warmth that permeated the observation chamber, a warmth that settled deep within Alara's bones, bypassing her skin, her nerves, her very consciousness, and resonating directly with something ancient and primal within her. It felt like a memory she'd never had, a comfort from a source beyond time. Then, a subtle shift on its surface. The utter blackness seemed to deepen, to become more profound, almost liquid. And from within that deepened void, faint ephemeral patterns began to emerge. They weren't lights, not exactly. They were more like ripples in perception, shifting shades of non-light, like shadows dancing on the edge of vision. They moved with a slow, deliberate grace, forming intricate, symmetrical designs that pulsed with an internal, silent rhythm. Alara gasped, a quiet, reverent sound. She felt tears prickling her eyes, not from sadness, but from an overwhelming sense of recognition, as if a part of her soul, long dormant, had finally found its echo. The patterns weren't language, but they communicated. They conveyed complex ideas through form and flow, a ballet of abstract meaning. She saw, or rather Ayn felt a herself understanding, the concept of expansion and contraction, of beginning and end, of infinite possibility contained within a singularity. The sphere was singing, yes, but its melody was woven from the fabric of existence itself, a cosmic hum that spoke of the universe's grand design. As Alara continued to open herself, shedding the layers of scientific objectivity, and embracing pure, empathetic receptivity, the communication deepened. The warmth intensified, becoming a gentle pressure, not unpleasant, but profound, as if the sphere were gently pressing against the boundaries of her mind, inviting her further in. The patterns on its surface grew more intricate, more detailed. She began to perceive them not just as abstract concepts, but as fragments of imagery, fleeting glimpses of somewhere else. She saw nebulae not as distant gas clouds, but as living, breathing entities, their colors vibrant with untold energy. She saw stars being born and dying, not as violent explosions, but as graceful transformations, shedding layers of light and dust like ancient trees letting go of their leaves. She saw, most strikingly, vast, intricate structures, not built of metal or stone, but of woven light and pure energy, drifting through the vacuum like colossal, luminous jellyfish. These were not human creations. They were alien, beautiful, and filled with a sense of purpose that resonated with the sphere's own quiet power. It was overwhelming. Alara felt her mind stretching, expanding, struggling to contain the torrent of sensory information. Her brain, optimized for terrestrial survival and linear thought, was being rewired, retuned to a frequency it had never known. This was the dangerous path she had intuited. It wasn't about physical harm, but about the fundamental redefinition of her reality, the shattering of her comfortable human-centric worldview. Every cell in her body hummed with the resonance, every synapse fired with a new alien clarity. The sphere was not merely sending data, it was sharing a GIP perspective and it was sharing its memory, its experience, its very essence. And Alara, willingly, was becoming a conduit for this cosmic consciousness. She felt herself dissolving, her individual ego blurring at the edges, merging with a vast ancient song. One vision was particularly vivid, a field of spheres, countless and varied, scattered across an unimaginable expanse of space. Some were bright, some dim, some pulsating with the same patterns she now saw on her sphere. They seemed to be connected, not by physical links, but by threads of light and energy, forming a colossal, living network that spanned galaxies. This was it. The melody, the choir. Her black sphere was a single note in an incomprehensibly vast symphony, a node in a galactic consciousness. It was then that she understood the sphere's deepest secret, or at least a fragment of it. It was a vessel, a library, and a communicator. It held the accumulated knowledge and experiences of this network, and it could transmit them. It was a seed of universal memory, waiting for a receptive mind to awaken it. And now, awakened by Alara's empathy, it was beginning to bloom. The visions grew more coherent, less abstract. She saw beings unlike any she could have imagined, creatures of pure light, entities that swam through nebulae like fish through water, beings that communicated through shifting gravitational fields. They were all part of the network, contributors to the grand song. They shared stories of cosmic migrations, of the birth and death of stars, of the slow, deliberate dance of galaxies. They spoke of a universal purpose, a quiet striving towards greater harmony, a constant evolution of consciousness throughout the cosmos. But there was also a shadow, a subtle discord in the symphony. Glimpses of worlds consumed by fire, of civilizations crumbling under the weight of their own ambition, of silence where once there was song. The network, it seemed, was not always perfect. It recorded failure as well as triumph, loss as well as discovery. It was a mirror reflecting the entire messy, glorious, heartbreaking tapestry of intelligent life. Alara felt an immense wave of sorrow wash over her, a collective grief for all that had been lost, all that had gone wrong. But just as quickly his sorrow was countered by an equally immense wave of hope. A vibrant, resilient energy that spoke of new beginnings, of lessons learned, of the ceaseless drive to create, to connect, to sing. As Alara plunged deeper into the sphere's shared consciousness, the effects began to ripple outwards, touching the Gi Stardust Weaver itself. Commander Jax, monitoring the ship's systems from the bridge, noticed anomalies. Power fluctuations, subtle shifts in the ship's grav drives, phantom readings on the long-range sensors. Nothing critical but enough to trigger cautious alerts. "Eva?" Jax called out, his voice low. "Are you seeing this?" Ambient energy readings in the observation chamber are off the charts, and our internal grav field is humming. Captain Eva Rostova, her face etched with a mix of concern and fascination, tapped a display. "I see it, Jax. It's not a malfunction. It's radiating from the sphere, or rather from Alara's interaction with it." She had been monitoring Alara's bio-readings, which were equally extraordinary. Heightened neural activity, brainwave patterns unlike any she had ever seen, yet paradoxically, a deep, almost meditative calm. "She's connecting with it, isn't she?" Jax mused, a note of awe in his voice. "Like she's singing with it, just like she said." Eva nodded, her gaze fixed on the image of Alara, serene amidst the subtly shifting non-light patterns of the sphere. "More than connecting, Jax, I think she's becoming part of it, and it perhaps is becoming part of her." The rest of the crew, aware of the ongoing, unprecedented interaction, maintained a respectful distance. Dr. Eris Thorne, the xenobotanist, found himself sketching designs for energy-gathering systems that suddenly seemed intuitive, as if the sphere's energy were whispering secrets directly to his subconscious. Engineer Lena Petrova, usually meticulous and grounded, began to hum complex, unfamiliar melodies as she performed routine maintenance, melodies that seemed to resonate with the ship's new, subtle vibrations. Even the ship's AI, Orion, usually a paragon of cold logic, began to exhibit curious behavioral patterns. Its diagnostic reports included poetic descriptions of energy flows. Its navigation algorithms suggested routes through nebulae that were mathematically improbable yet felt instinctively right. The Stardust Weaver was no longer just a vessel. It was becoming an antenna, a resonant chamber, tuned to the sphere's ancient song. Alara, meanwhile, was no longer just Alara, the astrophysicist. Her consciousness was a vast ocean, and the sphere was a deep-sea current, pulling her into its depths. She felt the universe not as a distant spectacle, but as an intimate, living presence. She understood that the melody was not just a collection of information, but an active, ongoing process of creation and communication. The universe was constantly singing itself into existence, and the network of spheres were its chroniclers and its voices. The boundaries of her perception dissolved further. She could feel the Stardust Weaver around her, not just as metal and circuitry, but as a warm, protective shell, a living extension of her will. She could sense the distant stars, not as pinpricks of light, but as vast, swirling furnaces of energy, each with its own unique hum. She felt the gravitational pull of distant galaxies, the faint echo of cosmic background radiation, the very fabric of spacetime vibrating with unseen forces. The sphere began to communicate a new urgency, a new direction. The patterns on its surface coalesced into a single, complex image, a distant star system, one not marked on any of their star charts. It was beautiful, framed by a delicate, iridescent nebula, and at its heart, a planet pulsed with a soft, inviting light. But it wasn't just a destination. It was a why purpose. The sphere projected a feeling of balance, of a delicate equilibrium that needed tending. It showed Elara images of the network, vast and interconnected, but also vulnerable, with certain nodes flickering, dimming. The planet, the star system it pointed to, felt like a vital point, a nexus. "It's showing me a place," Elara whispered, her voice hoarse, her eyes still closed, fixed on the inner vision. "A place where the song needs to be retuned. A place where the harmony is faltering." Captain Eva, who had entered the observation chamber to check on Elara, knelt beside her, a hand gently on her shoulder. "What kind of place, Elara? What does it want us to do?" Elara opened her eyes and they shimmered with an unfamiliar cosmic light. "It's not just a place, Eva. It's a missing chord. A silence in the symphony. The network needs it. The universe needs it. And we have to go there, to help it sing again." The black sphere pulsed once, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through the ship, through Eva, through Elara. It was a confirmation, a plea, a command. The next phase of discovery was indeed about harmony, but it was also about responsibility. Elara, the listener, was now being asked to become a singer, to bring her unique human melody to a cosmic choir. Her journey, once about understanding, was now about action. The Stardust Wyvern, guided by the sphere's ancient song and Elara's newfound cosmic wisdom, began to subtly alter its course, setting a trajectory for a star system unknown, towards a melody that needed to be found and restored. The universe had whispered, and Elara was ready to sing along, leading her ship into the deepest, most beautiful and most dangerous parts of the cosmic symphony. The Stardust Wyvern, a vessel usually so meticulously calibrated, now moved with an almost organic grace, as if its very hull hummed in response to the sphere's silent directives. Days bled into weeks, weeks into a blurred tapestry of hyperspace jumps and shimmering nebulae. Elara spent every waking moment, and many dreaming ones, in communion with the sphere. It didn't speak in words, but in sensations and echoes of light and shadow, in the subtle shifts of the ship's course that felt less like navigation and more like divination. Her crew, a microcosm of humanity's boundless curiosity, sensed the profound shift. Jax, the chief engineer, a man whose heart beat in sync with the Ushuaibri's pulse, would often find Elara staring blankly at the star charts, her eyes holding galaxies. "Another course correction, Captain?" he'd ask, his voice carefully neutral, hiding a growing awe. Elara would nod, a faint, distant smile playing on her lips. "The music changes, Jax. We must follow the score." Lena, the ship's xenobotanist, a woman who saw stories in every spiral of a nebula and every twinkle of a distant star, was less reserved. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered to Elara one cycle, watching a cascade of bioluminescent plankton drift past the observation lounge. "This journey. It feels like we're finally living up to our name. Weaving through the stardust." Elara simply squeezed her shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of their shared wonder. But beneath the wonder, a subtle tension grew. The cosmic symphony, which had once felt like a distant, comforting hum, began to reveal its intricacies, its dissonances. The silence was not an absence, but an active void, a hole in the fabric of existence that grew larger, colder, the deeper they ventured. Elara felt it like a phantom limb, a missing beat in her own heart. The sphere pulsed with a growing urgency, its light shifting from tranquil azure to a deep, resonant indigo. Finally, after what felt like an eternity and a heartbeat, the Stardust Weaver emerged from its final jump. Before them lay a star system unlike any charted. Its sun was a pale, opalescent orb, casting a soft, ethereal light on a cluster of planets. One world in particular drew their gaze. It hung like a jewel, swathed in swirling mists of pearlescent gases, but something was profoundly wrong. Scans are confused, Captain, Jax reported, his brow furrowed. Atmosphere is breathable, composition Earth-like. But there's no coherent energy signature. No radio waves, no light pollution from cities, no conventional signs of life. Lena, however, gasped, pressing her hand against the viewport. But look at the surface, Captain. Those aren't geological formations, they're structures. Vast, sprawling, almost organic cities. Veiled by the mists, like sleeping giants. Ilara felt the silence now. Not just as a concept, but as a physical pressure against her mind. It was a vacuum of sound, of vibration, of presence. The cosmic symphony here was not merely quiet, it was mutig, as if a giant hand had pressed down on the universe's volume knob, just for this system. The sphere pulsed violently, its indigo light now flashing with streaks of crimson. This was it. Prepare for orbital insertion, Ilara commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Lena, I need every sensor on that planet. Jax, ready the shuttle for atmospheric entry. We're going down. As the Stardust Weaver spiraled closer, the true scale of the world, which Ilara mentally dubbed Athelgard, Ancient Garden, became apparent. Beneath the pearlescent mists, titanic structures, woven from crystalline strands that shimmered with faint internal light, stretched across continents. They were not cities in the human sense, but vast interconnected tapestries of architecture, forming patterns of breathtaking complexity. Yet there was no movement, no sign of industry, no vibrant energy. It was a world held in suspended animation. The shuttle, a sleek, agile craft named the Ye Whisper Winding, pierced the mists of Athelgard. The air, thick with the scent of ozone and something akin to blooming night flowers, felt heavy, as if sound itself struggled to propagate. The silence here was absolute, a palpable entity that pressed in on them. Sensors are still struggling, Lena whispered, her voice barely audible. There are life signs, Captain, billions of them, but they're incredibly faint, like echoes. Ilara looked out. They were descending into a canyon of glowing crystal, its walls etched with intricate, swirling patterns. Within these patterns, she began to discern shapes. Beings, tall and slender, their forms reminiscent of ancient trees, their skin shimmering with the same internal light as their architecture. They stood utterly still, woven into the very fabric of their world, like statues carved from starlight. They're not just living Jean the world, Ilara murmured. They garry the world. Or at least connected to it in a way we can't comprehend. The sphere, nestled in a specially designed alcove on the shuttle's console, began to emit a low resonant hum, a sound that seemed to vibrate not through the air, but through Ilara's very bones. It was a single, pure note, a beacon in the oppressive silence. They landed in a vast circular plaza, surrounded by the silent, luminous beings. Their eyes, pools of deep, liquid silver, were open, but unseeing. Their expressions were serene, almost blissful, yet utterly devoid of joy or sorrow. They were simply present, existing in a state of profound, unwavering quiet. Ilara stepped out, the sphere hovering beside her, its hum intensifying. "Hello?" she called out, her voice feeling shockingly loud, an intrusion in the sacred quiet. There was no response. The beings remained still, their light unwavering. Lena tried a series of universal greetings, broadcasting in light frequencies, in subtle electromagnetic pulses. Nothing. Jack scanned for any kind of interactive interface, any sign of technology they could access. All systems here seemed inert, powered by an internal, unquantifiable energy. Ilara closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind, with her heart, trying to hear the cosmic symphony. Here, it was a hollow echo. The sphere pulsed, sending a cascade of images into her mind. A vibrant, ancient past, a world alive with a symphony of its own, a melody of breathtaking complexity and power. Then a shadow, a presence from the deep void, drawn by the very brilliance of their song. A cosmic predator, not of flesh and blood but of energy, of sound, of vibration. It fed on harmony, on the very essence of existence. The images shifted. The Ethelgardians, whose true name was lost to the cosmos, but whose song was their lifeblood, fought back. They were not warriors in the conventional sense, but masters of resonance, weavers of sonic tapestries that could reshape reality. Yet, this predator was stronger, more ancient. It devoured their songs, leaving behind a trail of dissonance and decay. In a desperate final act of self-preservation, the Ethelgardians had built a shield, not of physical matter, but of oxylencins. A vast, intricate network of resonant crystals, interwoven with their own consciousness, designed to dampen their vibrational output, to become utterly invisible to the predator. It worked. The predator, unable to perceive their muted presence, eventually moved on. But the cost was immeasurable. To silence their world was to silence themselves. Their vibrant song became an internal hum, a whisper locked deep within their being. Their connection to the cosmic symphony was severed. They became the echoes, living shadows, existing in a perpetual state of peaceful but profound isolation. They had saved themselves, but had lost their essence. Elara opened her eyes, tears stinging them. They silenced themselves to survive, she whispered, the enormity of the sacrifice pressing down on her. They're not just silent, they're trapped within their own defense. The sphere vibrated, projecting a new set of images. The predator was long gone, banished to the furthest reaches of the cosmos, or perhaps itself consumed. The universe was safe from Itati, particular threat. The silence was no longer necessary, but the mechanism that created it was now self-sustaining, a part of the Ethelgardians themselves, an unyielding shell. How do we break it? Elara asked the sphere, her voice filled with desperate hope. How do we give them back their song without destroying them, without re-exposing them to danger? The sphere pulsed gently, then floated towards one of the silent beings. It emitted a soft, pure note, the very same hum Elara had felt in her bones. As the sound washed over the Ethelgardian, a faint shimmer passed through its crystalline form. For a fleeting moment, Elara thought she saw a flicker of silver light in its eyes, a tiny ripple in its serene stillness. It's a frequency, Lena realized, her eyes wide. A resonant frequency. Their silence isn't an absence of sound, but a perpetual, interfering counter-frequency. Like two waves canceling each other out. And the sphere, Jax added. It's emitting the originally frequency. The one that was cancelled. Elara understood. The sphere was not just a guide, it was a tuning fork for the universe. It held the original, pure melody of the Ethelgardians, their true song woven into its very being. But a single note wouldn't be enough. The silence was too vast, too deeply ingrained. It required a symphony to break a symphony. We need to amplify it, Elara declared, looking at Jax. Can we use the Stardust Weaver? Can we project a frequency powerful enough to resonate with this world? To resonate with YThem? Jax's eyes, usually so focused on mechanics, now held a spark of wild possibility. The Weaver's core resonance chambers. They're designed for hyperspace folding, for manipulating space-time itself. If we could reconfigure them to focus a sonic frequency, it would be unprecedented, Captain, dangerous. It could tear the ship apart, or worse, shatter this entire world. Or it could free them, Elara countered, her gaze unwavering. We have to try, Jax. The universe needs their song back. Back aboard the Stardust Weaver, the crew worked with a frenetic, focused energy. Jax and his team recalibrated the immense resonance chambers, usually used for generating the ship's warp field, to instead project a highly focused, multi-spectral sonic wave. Lena, guided by the sphere's subtle directives, identified the precise harmonics and overtones needed to gently peel back the layers of silence, like unwrapping a priceless ancient artifact. Elara, meanwhile, became the conductor. She stood on the bridge, the sphere hovering before her, its light now a brilliant, pulsating gold. It was her connection to the cosmic symphony, her understanding of the Ethelgardians' plight, her empathy, that would guide their endeavor. Targeting complete, Captain, Jax's voice crackled over the intercom. Resonance chambers primed. We're ready to initiate the frequency projection. Elara took a deep breath. On my mark. Lena, monitor their biosignatures. Jax, keep the feedback loops as tight as possible. We can't afford a single misstep. The cosmic symphony, which had been a muted whisper, now felt like a desperate plea. Elara closed her eyes, letting the sphere's light wash over her, feeling the ancient, vibrant song of Athelgard flow through her. It was a melody of crystalline structures, of deep-sea currents, of stars being born and dying, of joy and sorrow, of pure, unadulterated existence. It was beautiful, and it was trapped. Now, Elara commanded, her voice ringing with conviction. A low thrum began to emanate from the Ea Stardust Weaver, a sound that wasn't heard with ears but felt in the very core of one's being. It spread outwards, a golden ripple of pure vibration, washing over Athelgard. At first, nothing happened. The silent beings remained still, their world shrouded in its self-imposed quiet. But Elara focused, pushing her consciousness, her will, her heart, through the sphere, through the ship, into the very essence of the Athelgardians. She poured her understanding, her hope, her love for the cosmic symphony into that golden wave. Then, a flicker. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the crystalline structures of Athelgard. A single, high-pitched note, like a chime struck after eons of silence, echoed across the planetary surface. It was hesitant, fragile, but it was thither. Lena gasped. Biosignatures are intensifying, Captain. They're responding. The East Stardust Weaver's hum grew stronger. The golden wave pulsed with renewed vigor. The sphere blazed, pouring forth the full, majestic spectrum of the Athelgardians' ancient song. And as it did, the world of Athelgard began to awaken. The pearlescent mists began to swirl, not aimlessly, but in intricate, dance-like patterns. The crystalline architecture, which had seemed static, now vibrated with internal light, its etchings seeming to shift and flow. And the echoes, the silent beings, began to move. It wasn't a sudden jarring awakening but a slow graceful unfurling. One by one, then in unison, they lifted their long, slender arms, their forms shimmering with a newfound luminescence. Their silver eyes, once serene and unseeing, now sparkled with a profound, almost overwhelming joy. And then, they sang. It wasn't a song of voices, but of pure, resonant energy. A melody of light and vibration, of deep, resounding chords and soaring, ethereal harmonies. It was the song Elara had glimpsed in the sphere's visions, the missing note in the cosmic symphony, now returned in all its magnificent glory. It flowed from their bodies, from their world, weaving into the golden wave of the East Stardust Weaver, amplifying it, transforming it. The silence broke like a shattered pane of glass, replaced by an explosion of sound and light that was almost unbearable in its beauty. Elara felt it wash over her, a wave of pure, unadulterated emotion, relief, wonder, elation, and a deep abiding connection to all things. The cosmic symphony swelled around them, embracing Athelgard's returned melody, integrating it, making it whole once more. Jax let out a whoop of pure joy, high-fiving Lena, who was openly weeping, tears streaming down her face as she laughed. Even the stoic bridge crew allowed themselves small, reverent smiles. They had witnessed a miracle. They had helped restore a piece of the universe's soul. As the song of Athelgard reached its crescendo, the sphere pulsed one last time, a brilliant flash of pure white light. It then dimmed, settling back into its gentle azure hue, its purpose fulfilled. It had guided them, it had shared the knowledge, and it had provided the key. Elara felt a profound sense of peace. Her journey, once about understanding, then about action, was now about harmony. She had followed the whispers, she had sung along, and the universe had sung back. The Stardust Weaver remained in orbit for days, simply basking in the returned light and song of Athelgard. The echoes, now the singers, moved freely among their luminous cities, their existence a vibrant testament to resilience and hope. They communicated with the crew not through words, but through shared emotions, through images of breathtaking beauty and gratitude. They showed Elara the patterns of their restored song, how it now flowed safely, harmoniously, within the greater cosmic symphony, no longer attracting unwanted attention, but enriching all. When it was time to leave, the Stardust Weaver did not depart in silence. As it broke orbit, the entire world of Athelgard pulsed with a single resonant chord, a farewell and a blessing that echoed through the void. Elara stood on the bridge, the sphere once again a quiet, comforting presence beside her. The cosmic symphony now played in full, a vast, intricate, and endlessly beautiful tapestry of sound and light. She was no longer just a captain exploring the unknown. She was a guardian of harmony, a weaver of cosmic connections. The universe was vast, full of melodies yet to be discovered, and perhaps, silences yet to be filled. But Elara knew, deep in her heart, that she and the Stardust Weaver were ready. With wonder in her heart, and the echoes of a restored song in her soul, she set a course for home, and then, for whatever new adventure the endless, singing cosmos had in store. The stars twinkled, each a note in the grand symphony, and Elara, a tiny human amidst the cosmic grandeur, smiled. The universe was a beautiful place, and she was so very grateful to be a part of its song. And as the Stardust Weaver vanished into the star-dusted velvet, a peaceful hum filled the ship, rocking everyone gently, like a lullaby from the heart of the cosmos.